Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. Our next guest says, at 15, I thought I wanted to be a dancer. Then I worked at a summer camp for kids with disabilities, and I never looked back. Shout out to Sarah Quinn for just doing the amazing work she's been doing in the community. So, Sarah, you found your life's calling at just 15. Most of us don't even figure that out until much later in our lives. But walk with us through that moment. What was that middle school special ed classroom experience that really sparked your passion that you still to this day have?
Yeah. So when I was in middle school, we had an opportunity during our study hall to volunteer in the special education classroom. And so I took the opportunity and spent one period a day in that classroom and really found joy in that room. I don't know if it was because of the particular age I was at, where you're a little bit less secure in who you are and what you want to do, but I really enjoyed my time there. And so when I had the first chance to get a job at 15 and I could work at Camp Cheerful, which was a summer camp for children with disabilities, I jumped and was one of the best decisions I ever made.
I love it. And dancing, did you continue dancing though? Is that something that you still do? Like, what type
Yeah,
of dancing?
yeah. I also grew up dancing from the time I was about 5 years old, danced competitively, both after school and for a local studio through the rest of my life. And so this kind of arts and recreation theme carried through a lot of my younger years up through the time I went to college.
Wow. I'm a big believer that life just happens and you don't ever know. You have this plan. So I'm pretty sure before you get into the space of summer camp, what was your vision? You had this plan for yourself. Was it going to be a professional dancer? Were you going to go and do nursing? Like, did you have a thought of anything?
Yeah, dancing for sure. I would have loved to be, I used to always say I wanted to be a backup dancer. It was like all of the fun without any of like the downsides of fame or being a celebrity. You just got to be out there and dance. And thought that probably would have been something I might have chased as I got older. And life had other plans for me.
If you could, I'm pretty sure you had this vision of who you wanted to be a backup dancer for.
Yeah.
Who was it?
This is probably a little like ahead of the like behind the times at the time I was younger, but Janet Jackson. I had a dance
Oh,
teacher
love it.
who was a Janet Jackson backup dancer, and she was just like the best in my eyes. So that would have been
Yeah.
fantastic.
To know what she's still doing, because she's still doing it, and I'm like,
Gosh,
man, hey, Sarah, you still could do it too. I'm just
yeah,
saying, you never know. You never know.
for sure.
No, I love it. And then you oversee one of the most comprehensive disability service programs in the country. Help us understand that scale. Like, what does it look like to run programs that serve 1,300 people daily and nearly 3,000 annually?
Yeah, Opportunity Village is a wonderful organization. We're based here in Las Vegas, so we serve primarily Southern Nevada, both youth and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we have a really wide range of programs: rehabilitation and pre-vocational training, supported employment, fine and performing arts. So I still get to do a little bit of that, case management. And yeah, we serve about 1,300 people a day over almost 100 different locations between community sites and our own OV facilities. So it's a big ship, but we get to do a lot of really meaningful work every day.
Can we talk about how we talked about the 15-year-old you and how you got into summer camp, but a lot of people would think that you just got lucky, right? And I never believe in luck. You've had to see some ups and downs in your life and leadership. What did that journey look like for you? First of all, did you ever know you're going to be a CEO, right? Probably not. But what did that journey look like for you? Because I know it wasn't just an overnight success.
Yeah, when I first started, it was really about chasing passion, right? I found a niche where I really enjoyed working with this population of people with disabilities. I still loved art and dance and music. And so I started with a program called Very Special Arts, and I got to teach dance to children with disabilities and teach music. Eventually got to oversee that program and really kind of blend both of those passions that I had, and still got to stay engaged in camp. I worked for an organization called Hillcroft in Indiana that had a summer camp called Camp Icenoggle. So I got to be a camp director for a while, which still some of the best summers of my life. And unfortunately, due to some funding cuts and struggles in that town and in that organization, Camp Icenoggle closed. And so I had kind of a moment to reassess and reevaluate and figure out what I was going to do next. I had kind of lost this perfect mashup of all my favorite things. And so I kind of pivoted a little bit to applied behavior analysis and went back to school to get some more education in that area. And then, I mean, maybe a little lucky, got an opportunity to come out to Las Vegas and start working at Opportunity Village, which really set me on a new course, but same passion and same general line of work.
So you left home and decided I'm going to Vegas to pursue this job. Is that what it was?
Well, my husband got a job offer in Las Vegas. We lived in rural Indiana at the time, and who were we to say no to that opportunity
Got
to
it.
kind of get up and go across the country? We had never really been, but we were newly married, ready for something different and exciting, and so we packed up and moved across the country just like 2 months after we got married.
Oh yeah, yeah. You guys definitely took a. You guys got uncomfortable per se, but
Yes.
it all worked out for you guys because I'm pretty sure he's still doing phenomenal. And look where you're at today, where you're really leading this organization. Could we talk about because I one thing that you mentioned was the art and the dancing and all that, and an art piece right behind you is actually from the
Yeah.
center that you actually are the leading. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, we have a really great fine and performing arts program at Opportunity Village. All of the really wonderful, warm and fuzzy things you get from engagement and exposure in the arts, but we also have kind of an entrepreneurial aspect where artists can create and sell their pieces. So
Wow.
ovartstore.org, but this piece behind me is done by an incredible artist from the program, and I'm lucky to own several amazing pieces from the folks who participate.
Man, all this while still being a mom, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
How do you balance both of those? Showing up as a leader and then also showing up at home 24/7? Because listen, a mom's job never ends, okay?
yeah.
You're on call all
That
day.
yeah, you're not joking. I would say very carefully. I think one of the hardest things about formally describing myself as a career gal and then making the pivot into a family person and being a mom was really you have to really pick where you're concentrating your effort, and you can't be everywhere all of the time, and that can be something that's hard to accept when you're a little bit of
Yeah.
like a go-getter type A. And so I've had to put up some firmer boundaries for myself to make sure I can really pivot to being 100% mom mode and pivot back to being a boss lady when I get to the office.
I can imagine though that your daughter has taught you so much leadership skills in itself, right? What are some of the skills you think your daughter's taught you over the years?
Gosh, I would say the power of letting go. It's really just the unbridled joy of children and youth, and has really taught me a lot about being able to release a little bit of the stress and pressure that we put on ourselves to be perfect and be organized and be structured. That has really helped me in a lot of ways, not just personally, but even professionally, just be a little more creative and a little bit more free and not as rigid.
Your answer is better than mine. Mine's always patience because Lord, do we need patience, right? And patience with our kids, patience at
Yeah,
work. We just earlier
loads of
before we
that
got on this
too.
call talked about patience,
Yeah.
the calls that we get sometimes. No, I love that. I love that you've been able to do what you love for all these years and still be an amazing mom and lead others, more importantly. When you think about just your leadership style and what wins, right? Because I can imagine that you have a staff that loves to stay around, and it's because of good leadership. What is that leadership style?
For me, it's really foundation of connection. We work in human services, and that's just not about the
Mhm.
people that we serve, but that extends to my colleagues and other folks that I work with, and really about knowing the people, who the person is, their likes, dislikes, preferences, but also being a servant leader. Not, I don't like to ask folks to do things that I wouldn't do myself.
Mhm.
We work in a field that requires a lot of emotional labor, and so being able to pour into others and show people how to take meaningful rest and pour into themselves is really important in providing strong services to others who may be in need.
I love that. And you've been doing some amazing things, but we also talked about some of the challenges that come with that as well, which is those tight systems and the tight funding. How do you make it work when you're innovating in this industry?
It can definitely be a challenge. We work in a field where we really want to be innovative and forward
Hmm.
thinking, but some of the systems that we work within, whether it's for funding or for compliance, can sometimes be a little bit more rigid. That can make it difficult to be creative and try new things because you still have to meet specific standards or bill things in a certain way. And so we try to strike a good balance. One of the strengths of Opportunity Village is really a diversity in funding so that we have some flexibility in how we can serve folks and fund things in different ways, which really is helpful for us because if we could only rely on rigid systems, we would be much further behind than we are
Yeah.
now. And it also helps us be sustainable. To OV's credit, they've been around over 70 years, which is really incredible for a service provider um, in a town like Las
Yeah.
Vegas.
I can imagine you've also have some success stories that are your favorites. You mentioned some before, the stop motion
Yeah.
and animation project, I believe, or the Amanda Show one. Can we talk about some of your favorites so people can really see some of the things that's happening on the back end?
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's 1 million stories I could think of that just bring so much joy and such a smile to my face. But there have been a really few cool projects lately. You mentioned the stop motion. That one has been really incredible. We have a really great art mentor who sparked an interest in some participants to dive into stop motion animation, and they created their first film, which was completely handmade from the clay characters to the backdrop, the voiceover, all of it. It was
Wow.
so incredible, and they took so much pride and joy in that project. And we've also had opportunities to chase personal passions. We have a person served who's really interested in being a future talk show host. And so the Amanda Show was an opportunity for her to film and interview other persons served that she works with and staff and get a taste of what it's like to be in the host seat.
I love that. That's exciting stuff. I mean, these are individuals that people used to just look past, but now these individuals are in our world, working alongside us. I've seen so many different organizations that are creating more opportunities for these individuals, and it's just amazing that you yourself are so, even before having kids, still had this passion, right? You mentioned I was a 15-year-old young girl that just had this passion, this drive, and you'll continue to have this passion and drive, forever. So just kudos to you for doing what you do. And I think all this happens when we talk about organizations and nonprofits. It doesn't just happen by funding; it happens through partnerships. You guys have some amazing partnerships that you guys mentioned in Vegas. Could we talk a little bit about partnership and why that is so important in building an organization, staying around for 70 plus years?
Yeah, I mean, not to be cliche, but it does take a village, quite literally, in the sense that having those community partnerships helps us expand our reach. It helps us expand our resources. Time and energy is limited when you are one
Mhm.
person, but when you can multiply yourselves to many folks who are subject matter experts in other areas, it
Mhm.
really exponentially increases our ability to provide quality services. So, for instance, we've partnered with the CTA Foundation, which is an extension of the Consumer Electronics Showcase. So, we've been able to help test out new technology and provide feedback from users who experience disabilities and access technology in different ways. We have a really wonderful network of community employers who are open and willing to learn and hire people with disabilities and recognize what great employees they make. So we really work hard to maintain and make those connections in the community because it only makes us do better work.
I love that. I mean, when we think about nonprofits, I think that's the best thing you can do is find partners, right? We just talked about that whole gala that we're hosting.
Hmm.
And the biggest thing that I've been telling the organization is now we're not here just to raise money.
Hmm.
We're here to build relationships
Yeah.
because the relationship that we build today will provide so much more, years down the line. So I think that sometimes, and of course, because of the funding cuts, everyone's trying to just raise some funds.
Hmm.
But I think people also need to remember building relationships, right? Don't just think that it's about asking, but it's about that storytelling aspect. It's about letting people know, what you've done and what you continue to do. I don't think people buy into that. So I love some of the things that you guys are doing as well on the performing arts. I'm a performing arts head, okay? I used to do
Yeah.
theater, so when I hear that you guys are incorporating that, I
Yeah.
love that. I think we need more of that everywhere, right? Like the music, the singing, the dancing, the actual artwork.
Hmm.
I love the whole curating their own movie through like what?
Yeah.
Never heard of that. Okay, this is definitely unique. We also, when you talk about just the spaces that we're in, right? We have some challenging times. We talked about the government funding being cut, but we also have innovation when it comes to AI and what people are doing in that space. Because I've actually heard an organization that because of funding had to cut 40, maybe 40 roles,
Hmm.
and now they're like, okay, we had to cut 40 roles, but how can we still move forward as if we didn't cut 40 roles, right? And a lot of people are thinking AI, the automations, the system. Is that something that you guys are working on, maybe on the back end, on the front end? What does that look like for your organization?
Yeah, I mean, definitely administratively, the leadership team, and we're definitely exploring ways to be more efficient and ways to be, good stewards of time and resources. So that's always on our radar as far as what tools can we use to help us in that way. But also for person served, there's a lot of technology out there that can be really helpful to people who experience challenges. And for us, it's really on that end more about digital citizenship and not just the access to the technology and how to use it, but also just that awareness of what does it mean to share my information or to use technology or to engage with things in that way. So really about education from all angles.
Hey, real quick, if you enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, where that's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. Love that. And is there anything in in the works that you can see could really change the game? Maybe that's things that you guys are not using, but you would love to use that could really change the way you guys are moving the needle?
I would love to see more, I think, affordable, accessible tech. There's a really great area of accessible technology out there, but sometimes it can be hard to get into the hands of actual users because the
Hmm.
cost of the tech alone, it can be a barrier to have someone be able to get a device. We work with folks who can sometimes be hard on equipment. And so when something's really expensive and really fragile, there's a fear that's there. So I'd love to see a lot of that accessible tech be in the hands of more users at an available price point, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Price point is everything,
Yeah.
especially with AI. I feel like price point is everything. And because it is so new, everyone is kind of giving these outrageous prices when it comes to AI. And it's like you want to use it, but it's like maybe we can't afford it as at the moment. So I love that you're at least looking ahead and figuring out what will work.
Yeah.
And I think that when we think about how we can actually help others, you, you want people to understand ability, inclusion, and community. What would you want to tell these individuals that are listening to this and thinking about the ability, inclusion, and community coming from a leader like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it's really just about humans, right? Like when the work that we're doing is about accessibility, it's about inclusion, it's about welcoming others into our community. And while that is definitely something that we advocate for our population, any effort in those areas are beneficial to all. So we often get the example of there's a lot of services and technology out there available to seniors. And a lot of that is also a cognitive accessibility feature to folks for disabilities. And thinking about kind of ways we can promote inclusion and accessibility for all still is great for the people that we serve. It's not just about them, it's for more meaningful engagement in the community for all of us. And so it doesn't have to be so specific. I think sometimes folks get overwhelmed about, one particular population, but what we're really advocating for is, you know, just welcoming and inclusive spaces for all of us.
Yeah. How can listeners get involved? I mean, through volunteering, partnerships, or any inclusive hiring? Like, if you could just kind of give us an insight, people are probably listening, wanting to know how do we get involved in this organization?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. We like to make the joke that there's very little things that we can say no to in our world. So volunteering is also like always an incredible option. Donations and financial support will never be turned down. But as far as the wider community, we definitely encourage folks to ask questions and get involved. To your point, whether that's being open to hiring people with disabilities, having training for your teams that helps them understand the population and support them as consumers or as customers of your businesses or organizations. We really love to be in as many spaces as we can. And so there's very few ways we can't find a way to partner with someone to make it better for the people that we serve.
After 23 years here, Sarah, doing this work, what's the most rewarding part of that purpose driven leadership for you?
It's the people. It's not just going to work and having the connections of folks that I've known for my entire tenure of Opportunity Village. For person served, getting to watch like a front row seat to some incredible growth, folks trying new things, accomplishing goals, like that will always be such a driver. But really, too, the people that I'm sitting next to, that my coworkers and colleagues and other people in the space, really wonderful human beings. And that is also valuable to be in a space where work is always going to be work. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. But I know that I am alongside some of the best people, and that you can't put a value on that, I don't think.
Yeah, I love your energy. I feel though I can't imagine this is like 100% all the time,
Yeah.
right? Who are those that you look to in a time of needing to recharge, rewire the brain? Is it the kids? Is it just, going back to the front line and working with those individuals? What does that look like for you? Because so many people, I always say that as leaders, we're not taught how to pour into ourselves while we pour into others. So who's pouring into you during these times?
Yeah. Gosh, there's a lot of ways, and I think in more recent times we've had a lot of unprecedented times, as we all know. So there's been a lot more exploring those stress relievers and those ways to recharge. Home life is definitely a big one. Having my daughter has really helped me with new perspective and a different lens to look at life, which has been such a benefit. But also sometimes it's like coloring on my iPad, or I still ballroom dance. And so getting to move my
Okay.
body, and definitely going back to the people that we serve. So in Fine and Performing Arts, we have a big showcase every year. It's called Ovation. And I got to MC one of the community shows, and really just getting to be backstage and feel all the excitement and the energy of them getting ready to perform. That really grounds me back in that 15-year-old version of myself that was just having the time of my life and just also getting a paycheck.
I can imagine. Is this something that you put together? Was it already there before you got there? This
It's
event.
long, yeah, before I got there. I think this was our 12th or 13th year doing the show. So just
Wow.
before my time arriving at OV, but I might be biased, but event of the year for sure.
Oh man, I can imagine, man. Any of those events are very stressful to put together, but when you get to really see the outcome and the talent that is being shown to the audience, yeah, for sure, that can definitely be the cup filler,
Yes.
as per se. I love this. I love this. Where can people find more about the organization? If they wanted to find out more, are you guys on social media? What is the website? Are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, all the above. Opportunityvillage.org is where you can find more about the organization. Lots of good work there, and we are always eager and willing to connect to folks, not just businesses and community members, but other providers. We're all. I love to talk inside baseball about what's working, what's not working. So we're all kind of on this journey together.
I love it. So I'll leave you with this last question that we have, the blind question. If your 15-year-old camp counselor self can see you now, leading thousands through Opportunity Village, what would she say, you think?
Gosh, I want to say she would probably say, uh, like, what next? Like, how, like, if this is what you're doing now, like, what could possibly be next?
Yeah. You ever think about that? What could be next?
You know, s- Sometimes I think right now my life has been a little bit more inside looking with my daughter and my family. And, I don't know that I give it too much thought about what's next, but I, I, I hope something
You're in a
fun and
beautiful
exciting.
space. Recently I was speaking to this leader, and what a great conversation. So this man spent 20 years in corporate, and he was in software and data or something like that, and had went through a situation where his mother-in-law passed away, and his mother-in-law, he said, always hated his job. She just felt like that was a horrible job for him. And she says, hopefully one day your job could be helping others. And that's what he told me, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, wow. And that's the line of work that we're in, Sarah. And it
Yeah.
does win all the time. So he ended up getting into elderly care, home at home care, and this is his first year doing this. Been in corporate for 20 years. And I was like, how does it feel? He's like, it feels so good, actually. He
Yeah.
says, financially, we're still trying to get it together. He says, but the work feels so good. And I can imagine for you as well, Sarah, like the work feels so good. So we can't
Mhm.
think of anything others things to do. Like, I just want
Yeah.
to help these people. You found the group, that niche of people that you want to help, that, you know, going back when you're 15 years old looks completely different of what it looks like here in 2025,
Yeah.
right? Like night and day, the energy that's being put into these individuals. So I don't know, Sarah, I think that you're winning in what you're doing today. I don't know that you could do anything else, unless you're going to go help a different community, but what a community to actually help. I love it.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate in that way, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just like it's so good now. What could I possibly think of that I could do different?
Unless Janet Jackson needs a backup dancer, then we're talking, right? Then you maybe you'll think a little differently. But no, that's so great. That's so great that you're still doing the ballroom as well.
Yeah.
You just never know what happens to that. And I'll give you a quick story before we start to wrap up. I love wrestling, and I always have loved wrestling. And I always told myself as a young kid, like, oh man, one day, I'll be working doing wrestling stuff. And 2 years ago, wrestling to me was like the escape from reality. So I did it because it just brought me peace. You can imagine dance brings you that peace.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to build a wrestling community. So I started going live every Monday and Friday. And my wife was like, what is this, like a hobby? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's just, give me some time, okay? Let's see what happens. It was definitely that passion project, or, purpose project, whatever you want to call it. And the opportunities that really came from that, of doing the things that you love, they will open doors. So Sarah, everything that you're doing today will continue to open doors because you do what you love and you show up naturally you. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the way that you showed up today on this conversation, naturally you, and just for the things that you do for the community that you're in. Like, you're always going to be blessed for that in itself. So I appreciate you, Sarah. Do you have a blind question for our next leader?
Yeah, we talked a lot about connections, and for leaders, we can sometimes get bogged down in the admin and the strategy and the logistics. I would love for the next guest to answer the question, what keeps you connected to the work?
What keeps you connected to the work you do? I love that. That is actually a really good question, Sarah. Sarah, we thank you. We thank you for your time. We thank you for that blind question. That's actually a really good question. And it's sometimes I hear these blind questions and it'd be like a little bit challenging. This one is not as challenging.
Yeah.
It's very short, but it'll definitely make you think. So I definitely love that one. But guys, if you guys are still watching, make sure that you guys do go ahead and follow Sarah. Make sure that you guys check out the organization. Remember, it's not always about a dollar. It's about the connections. It's about the volunteering. It's about doing things that sometimes they don't even know they need until you show up and say, hey, this is what I do for a living. Can I help you? And then they have the creative ideas behind it to figure out where you work best. If you're in a place of wanting to get your cup filled, go find an organization that just resonates with what you love. There's so many out there. This is just one of them. So Sarah, we thank you. My name's Efrain. This is Sarah, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.